Namaskar. At the outset, I thank the organizers, ORF, the authorities of ORF, Shri Ashok Mishra, and Hemant for inviting me to participate in this discussion and for giving me an opportunity to share dais with such an eminent scholars like Professor Thite, Professor Tripathi, and Professor Narsari. I work as the assistant curator at the Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute and look after the manuscripts, that is Sanskrit literature in its very material or tangible form. So let me remind you all that a vast amount of literature has been actually lost in time. So whenever we are studying ancient literature, we must remember this fact that now we have very scanty material at hand. And I am happy that Ashokji Mishra he has consulted most of the Sanskrit works and actually presented a very well-studied book which gives a history of evolution of Hindu religion. And with extensive notes and complete index and very useful charts at the end, this has made the book a very useful reference work. Especially for the beginners or the common readers in general. And actually, I'm going to recommend this book to my students of Sanskrit and Indology in Pune. Many enthusiastic people and like amatas in Pune who want to know about our ancient literature, but who doesn't know Sanskrit or understand Sanskrit language, approach the Bhandarkar Institute, who serves as a literary bureau, so to say, for their doubts about these subjects. So now I have very easy answer for them to, I will direct them to this book. So a long felt necessity or need has been now fulfilled in this field. I will just mention one or two points. I will focus on the last part of the book, actually, mainly the tables. I'm the last speaker, so it goes with it. The idea of preparing such tables, which are at the end of the book, is in itself very useful and thoughtful. Among the three tables, which may prove useful to experts and general readers alike, the second table is the most informative and essential, in my opinion. It is a chart displaying list of sanskaras in the rows and the smruti works in columns, in which sanskara finds a place. So this is really a very important and precise table. The first chart or the table is intended to show a time period in which Hindu practices or customs have evolved. But since it is restricted only to the first mention of different customs in various Puranas, it might be confusing for general readers. For example, the timeline indicating such practices like Yuga Dharma or Gaya glorification or idol Lakshana, etc. is correct. However, other customs like sacred thread or marriage or tithis could be mistaken for a late origin. So I think that is really an important point, and similar is the case with the third table regarding the pujas. So this point actually struck me. And the other one is, among the entire mass of Sanskrit literature, the encyclopedic work called Mahabharata is unique, actually. This Shata Sahasri Samhita that is the text containing 100,000 verses, attained the status of Dharmashastric text as back as in the 4th century of our era. And I think that as a reader, I expected a separate exposition on the Mahabharata in this book. In the words of Professor Dr. V.S. Sukhtankar, the first general editor of the critical edition of the Mahabharata, Mahabharata is our past that has prolonged itself into the present. He says that it is collective, it is our collective unconscious. So it is really important, and it has played an important role in transforming Vedic religion into Puranic religion. I mean, the two great epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, they have special place in Sanskrit literature. So actually, I have expected more exposition on Mahabharata in the book. Mishraji has handled skillfully the most controversial topic, namely the Aryan problem. He has explicitly stated that it is based on the language similarity. And of course, the recent findings made by the Deccan College in Rakhi Ghadi under the leadership of Professor Vasant Shinde, it proves that the today's inhabitants of Rakhi Ghadi are DNA-wise the same people who inhabited there during Harappan period. So I think Aryan problem is mostly based on the linguistic issues and should not be taken literally. Similarly, similarity between two languages cannot be taken to mean that they have a same origin, temporally or spatially. And in my opinion, enough energy has been wasted on this problem till today. I think so. Professor Tripathi just mentioned that we have to depend on the translations made by the outsiders, or rather Westerners. And this is a fact. As Professor Thite mentioned, that one must know German and French to study the literature in that language, which is related to Vedic studies. I will quote Monier Williams here. Actually, when he landed in India in 1878, he writes that though I was born in India and had lived as a child in India and had been educated for India and had read, thought, spoken, and dreamt about India all my life, I had entered a new world. So, of course, studies done by Western scholars, they have their own limitations. But when I see that their scholarship or their viewpoint is perceived with prejudices, then I termed it as Occidentalism on the lines of Orientalism. Except scholars like Monier Williams, who were like declared missionaries, so to say, and a very, very few German Indologists who followed Nazis. I think that Western scholars had always had academic intentions. Whether their perception is correct or not is a different question. But their methodology has been really critical. And I'm sorry to say, but Indian academia somewhat lacks this critical approach what they have in West. So though they have their own limitations, their point of view is also important. And just The last point, what I want to say is just I want to congratulate again Ashok Mishra ji on this very good book, and I thank you all. Thanks.